little tie collar for him. It looks like this, but shorter. He saying that if he wants to get in on these, he's got to wear that.
I love it. See a lot of returning faces. I love that. Thank you guys for coming back. A lot of you, I think, have been here to almost every single one of them. I see. And welcome if you haven't joined us yet. Welcome if this is your first time. We're going to use the chat. I always use the chat if you want to ask questions for different things. I got some questions for you guys, but Brian's usually pretty good. How we'll go about doing this is we'll start with one drink. He'll go through it. We'll kind of ask some questions. We'll do some cheersing. We'll take a moment pause for people to regroup their ingredients, and then we'll move on to the next drink. And so we'll kind of go from there. Also, I did remember to hit the record button, people, so this is great. So we'll get it up on our website too. We do have some other ones and some of our other virtual events up on our website too. If you've happened to miss it, you can log into that as well. So we'll get the recording up for you. And then before we get started, because I see a couple more beeps coming, but also a lot of familiar faces, I wanted to ask you guys a question. I think I know the answer, but I just wanted to give you guys what you want. So I'll be in full transparency. We kind of decided when we first started this, and we didn't know we would get such a loyal following, that we didn't want to send the recipes out, only the ingredients ahead of time, because we were afraid that y'all would just take the recipes and then not show up and hang out with us. But that doesn't seem to be the case, which is awesome. And I give that credit all to Brian because he's wonderful. And a lot of you today, which I think is totally valid, actually emailed me and say, hey, I eventually want to make all 3 drinks, but I think I just want to get ingredients for one. Can I have the recipe ahead of time? Just so I know, which ones I want to do. And so, and I apologize, you're going to hear my furry friend too, potentially, but if you want to drop in the chat, do you guys want me to just go ahead and start sending the ingredients and the full recipes ahead of time? So if you want to let me know that in the chat. And then also for future events, if you have ideas for what kinds of drinks and stuff that you would like to see, please feel free to put that in there too. So. I'm seeing a lot of yes, please. Okay, I will just start sending the full recipes ahead of time and pray that y'all will still come hang out with us too. That way you have them and you can choose if you want to make one or all 3. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
Hi, everybody. Happy March. Welcome to the month of St. Patrick's Day, and I'm clearly decked out in green for everybody today. My name is Smart Guy Ty. I've been doing events around the Dayton area for the last 15 years, and I just started doing these virtual events over the last year, and it has been it's been fun. It's been an honor to be with you people over and over again, for the repeat people that have seen me before, and for welcome to the new faces that haven't and are trying this for the first time. I have a good time with it, and like Brooke said, you can feel free to ask me questions. In fact, between cocktails, while everybody is resetting and enjoying some of the cocktail, ask away. That's kind of what we have before. And so this month, what Brooke and I talked about doing was doing something for St. Patrick's Day. So a lot of Irish whiskey, something a little bit green, because you can't do St. Patrick's Day without doing something green. And obviously we need to throw a Guinness in there because it is St. Patrick's Day. I see your toucan can. So we're going to do that. The first cocktail we're going to make is going to be a richer one. It also happens to be one of my favorites, and it is Ryder iced coffee. So we are going to fill up our glass part way, because honestly, so what we're going to do, and I'm going to refer to it as building. And when you build a cocktail, what that means is when I give you the ingredients list, or you read the ingredients list in a recipe book, they just want you to put in the ingredients in the order in which they listed them. Either it's because the drink is layered, or there's something fancy, or that just happens to be the best way to put those drinks in. So this is going to be a drink that's going to be built right in the glass. So there's no taking there's going to be some stirring, but absolutely, we're not going to be shaking or anything like that. So if you have a spoon, this is my nice long spoon that I'm using for today. It can be a spoon that you've taken out of your spoon drawer. It could be the long knife if you choose to use a long knife. You don't need to have any fanciness to do some stirring. So we're going to start with 2 ounces of cold brewed coffee. This is one of those cold brewed coffee, cold coffee, whatever type of coffee you want to use. Just 2 ounces of it right off the bat. And this was kind of a riff on the idea of the Irish coffee, something for cold weather, or something for cold weather. Irish coffee, it's not cold all the time, so we need a little bit of nice chill cocktail summer month with a little bit of a similar flavor profile. Now we are going to put in 2 to 4 ounces of stout, and you want to put in the amount of stout that's going to fill up the glass maybe another third of the bowl. You don't want to go crazy with it. You don't want to fill it all the way up because we've got more ingredients. We still have to fit the Irish whiskey. So maybe 2 to 4 ounces of stout. And when I list ingredients, when I'm going to send you the ingredients, I always use the generics. So stout is going to be perfectly fine. If you don't have Guinness, maybe you have 10 ton from Warped Wing. Maybe you have something from Eudora or Toxic. Its name slipped me right at the moment. So just a little bit of stout on top of that. Now, is everybody caught up? Everybody have their stout in? Everybody sipping on their stout as we make the rest of the stout, as we make the rest of this cocktail. So we're now going to add 1.5 ounces of Irish whiskey. The one I'm going to be using is Powers. For those who are familiar with Irish whiskeys, from what I've read, this is one of the most popular ones in Ireland. Jameson, Bushmills, any of the other Irish whiskeys are perfectly fine. And you're going to do 1.5 ounces of that. Now, I have a jigger, which makes stirring for me a lot easier, or pouring and measuring for me a lot easier. If you do not have a jigger, 1 tablespoon is 1/2 ounce. So you have tablespoons at home. You just use 3 tablespoons of Irish whiskey, which sounds a lot more like a recipe, so it's more acceptable. But tablespoons in lieu of the jigger. Got it? We're good? All right, see a thumbs up. That means yes.
Yep, people are nodding. How much, so Cheryl wants to know, how much is in a jigger? Like, what does that
so
hold,
a jigger is usually, we'll have a 1.5 ounce side and a 1 ounce side. So this is a 1.5 ounce side. This is a 1 ounce side. And then on the inside, like this is one you can get at Target. This is OXOs. You can get this at Target, and on the inside, you can't really see it, but they have lines for 3/4 of an inch or 3/4 of an ounce, 1/2 ounce, and 1/4 of an ounce. So this is a more common type. There's also a Japanese jigger, which is taller and more slender. I'll pull that out while we're drinking, but this is what you would have for a jigger. And again, it's 1 ounce, usually 1.5 ounces on one side, 1 ounce on the other side. And then there's little lines on the inside that'll tell you other measurements.
Awesome. That's good. Thank you.
Again, like I said, if you're not investing in that, you got tablespoons at home. So we're going to do 3/4 of an ounce of brown sugar simple syrup. Now, if you just have regular syrup, that's perfect. Brown sugar simple syrup used for this particular cocktail because in the original Irish coffee, you put brown sugar in it, mixed it in, and you had yourself a simple syrup essentially as the coffee melted the brown sugar. Then we're going to stir this because we want everything to incorporate. And if you want, you can add a little bit of extra ice. I'm adding an extra bit of ice. And when you're stirring, especially something that's got some carbonation in it, you don't necessarily want to vigorously stir it. You just kind of want to give it a little stirry stir and then leave it alone. Make sure everything is incorporated. Now the last part is going to be 2 ounces of cream.
Hey, Brian, can you
Yes.
refresh them? How much of the simple syrup was that again?
Ounce of brown sugar simple syrup.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, thank you. I think we're good. Yeah.
All right. So if we're going back to the reference of coffee, we have to have some sort of cream on top of it, right? So that's why we're going to use, now you can use heavy whipping cream, you can use half and half, you can use whatever type of cream you want. But what you're going to do, because it's purdy, is you're going to take your cream and just kind of drizzle it on top. And that is a Dublin iced coffee. Now, if you wish, you can also, that's a great look. You can leave it just as it is. You can go back in and make sure your coffee is nice and stirred up.
I see people tasting. What do we think, guys? Oh, cheersing. Okay. Oh, I got a big thumbs up from Pablo.
Cheers.
Awesome. Laura says it's nice. Great. Good stuff.
And for the person that asked, this is a Japanese cocktail or Japanese jigger. It's a lot taller. One of my favorite cocktails, by the way.
Chris says his new breakfast drink. That sounds good to me. And yes, Jen, just as a reminder, I will be sending out the exact recipes and the food pairing suggestions after this as well. So you'll have all of that in your email by Monday, probably.
And so with this one, if you're going to be pairing stuff with it, I went with mini grilled cheeses. For one, we're just talking comfort food here, and mini grilled cheeses sound absolutely delicious. 2, the sweetness of the cheese and the other ingredients are going to go really nicely with a lot of, because we got a lot of coffee, we've got some Irish stout. There's a lot of bite into a lot of these ingredients. So you can even add a little bit of some herbs. You can add some fresh vegetables, anything like that to those mini grilled cheeses. And the cheese and the butteriness and the crunch will go really nice with our Dublin Irish coffee. Dublin iced coffee. Any question?
We think we're good. I think a lot of people like that one. I don't mind grilled cheese for breakfast either, too. I'll do both of them. So, all right. Well,
Cheese,
cheers. Yeah,
grilled cheese is an all-day food.
I agree. I 100% agree.
I mean,
So,
breakfast tacos. So, I mean, clearly.
Rob said, "Oh my God, so good. All good. Yum, yum."
So,
Bringing a large back of this drink to share would be great. So, yeah.
yeah, so I have a question.
Yes.
I'm in San Francisco. We have the original Irish coffee at Buena Vista in San Francisco, as you probably know. That's made somewhat differently. It's just Irish coffee. They use Tullamore dew and cream and coffee. So what does a stout bring to the table, and why do you put that in there?
Well, actually, this was invented, I think, in a similar area by a similar group of people. It adds that extra bitterness. It adds a little bit of the richness, the thickness of the stout that it comes with it. And I think if it didn't have that stout in there, it wouldn't have the same backbone. Because when you have something that's hot, you're getting a lot more of the flavor out of it. When you have something that's cold, the flavor gets sucked back into it. So if you've ever gotten a cocktail at a restaurant and you're sitting there and you're drinking it over a 15-minute time span, if you're paying enough attention, you'll notice as it gets warmer, it tastes different. And I think the Guinness adds a little bit of flavor back into it, because otherwise you've got cold coffee, which is sucking in flavor. The Irish whiskey isn't going to give a big boost of flavor. It does give a nice backbone to it. But I think that Guinness is really going to give it that nice pop of flavor.
Right. So actually, I love it. It's much better than what they serve in Buena Vista, by the way.
Wow. That's nice.
Yep.
Oh, and then we've got another question. So Joyce said she couldn't find a single bottle of Guinness. So she got a Samuel Smith oatmeal stout. She thinks it's delicious, but did she wreck the drink?
No. Samuel Smith stout is one of my favorite oatmeal stouts. The only thing that would have changed is Guinness is going to be a little bit more bitter. The oatmeal stout, because it has that oatmeal goodness in it, is going to be a little bit sweeter. So if you like a sweeter beer, oatmeal stout would be the way to go. But I think this would be a hard drink to wreck.
That's awesome. Lucy, you're showing something. She got like a platform stout. Looks like
Amalicious.
Oh, there I am.
Caramelicious.
Caramelicious.
Caramelicious. Platform is delightful.
Yes, it was really good with this. Well, this was really good. I don't know what it'd be like with the Guinness, but yum.
And I think that's why, stout perspective, and I think from a cocktail perspective in general, what they do with stouts, I think you're really going to wreck this, because if you're adding a milk stout, you're just getting that extra milkiness in it. If you're having a coffee stout, it's already got coffee in it. Oatmeal stouts, oyster stouts, all of those different types of stouts. I don't think you're getting too far away from the core flavor of having a nice stout. So as long as something darker, a little bit richer. Now, if you're putting an IPA in here, I can't help you. But I think if you have something side of it, it's going to work really well.
And Laura also wants to know if you think a German Doppelbock would work too.
It's going to be pretty rich, though. Of a kick. One thing about Guinness is most people think Guinness is heavy. Guinness is about as heavy as Bud Light and only has a few more calories. It's 4.2 ABV. Whereas if you're going with a Doppelbock, that's going to be a big beer. Yeah, 4.2.
I agree, Cindy. Much better than Bud Light.
Oh, it's much better than everybody. My favorite thing about Guinness is everybody thinks, oh, it's so heavy, I can't drink it, it's too much. It's like, yeah, but it's 30 more calories and like way more flavor.
You know, we went to the Guinness factory in Ireland and the brewery, and they actually have a specific way of pouring the Guinness draft.
119 seconds. Yep.
That's awesome. All right, are we ready to move on to our next drink? All right, everyone, thumbs up. Awesome. Those are great questions.
All right, green. So this is going to be a cocktail we're going to shake. If you don't have a shaker, there's a couple different ways you can do this. So this would be a standard cocktail shaker. if you don't have these nice little pieces of tin, or if you have something that looks more like this, these are perfectly fine shakers. They're going to do you justice. If you don't have that, what you can do is you can take 2 glasses and roll the cocktail back and forth. It's still going to have that same effect of mixing the drink together. It's not going to be as bubbly and flowy, but you're still going to be able to mix that drink together. So if you don't have fancy things like this, you still have plenty of ability to make this cocktail. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some ice in my glass, a tall glass. Then I'm going to take 2 ounces of Irish whiskey, because I can. Sorry, I have to adjust my works over here. Now, I'm doing 2 ounces of Irish whiskey. So when I pour my liquor in here, I put the ice in last. I don't want it to be diluting while I am putting everything in. And to me, so I usually put my ice in last. So if you want to put your ice in first, you can. I put my ice in last. And so the next thing we're going to put in is a 1/2 ounce of orange liqueur. Now, if someone asked before about the jigger, this side of the jigger, the 1 ounce side of the jigger, has that 1/2 ounce in it. So I just filled this halfway up and dump it on in. And then we're going to put in a 1/4 ounce of orange juice. How are we doing? Everybody got their Irish whiskey and the orange liqueur. 2 ounces of Irish whiskey, a 1/2 ounce of orange liqueur.
I think we're good. I see people pouring.
All right. Then I'm going to take another 1/4 ounce of orange juice. Is that right? Yeah, 1/4 ounce. Now, if you put in a little bit more orange juice, it's not going to kill anything. There's a lot more going into this. So 2 ounces, or a 1/4 ounce of orange juice right on in.
How many ounces of lemon juice again?
It's 2 ounces. It's a 1/2 ounce of orange liqueur and a 1/4 ounce of orange juice. If I said lemon juice, I apologize.
Okay.
So orange juice, orange liqueur. Now, once you have everything in your mixing vessel, a little bit more ice. I'm putting the ice in the top one. So one thing to do, if you are shaking a cocktail and you're using something like this, and you don't have to necessarily use this, you can take one of these and put it on top as well. It's called a Boston shaker. If you're putting this on top, just give it a little pat to make sure it's sealed. As a professional bartender, I have worn more cocktails than I'd like to talk about because I didn't tap the butt. So make sure you give this a tap to make sure that seal is tight, and then start doing your shake.
Okay, what was after the orange juice? Yeah.
Nothing was after the orange juice. Ice. Ice was after the juice. So you should have 2 ounces of whiskey, a 1/4 ounce of orange juice, and a 1/2 ounce of orange liqueur. And then you're going to shake. You'll shake for about 10 seconds or until the cocktail shaker is cold in your hand. And I actually listen to mine as well, because once the tone in the tin changes, I know it's about ready. Now, this is a Hawthorne strainer. So if you have one of these, you could put it right on top and do your strain that way. If you don't have a Hawthorne strainer, you can take 2 vessels that you use, kind of hold them together, and use them to strain out the cocktail. So you strained off the cocktail on top of fresh ice.
So they want to know why strain the ice and then drink it on ice.
Typically, well, as a habit, when you strain out the ice, it's because you're putting it on top of fresher, better ice. And so you're not necessarily using the previous on it to be a chilled cocktail. This is going to keep longer. It's not going to have the bits in it. There's nothing wrong with dumping the cocktail. Dump the ice in as well. Now, we're going to take our ginger ale. Accidents with opening ginger ale. I'm going to wipe off my spoon because I don't want coffee milk. And then again, something that has carbonation on it, we want a gentle stir.
Can you use ginger beer, like Fever Tree ginger beer instead of ginger ale?
And use ginger beer. The difference between ginger ale and ginger beer is ginger beer is going to have a much sharper flavor. And so it's going to make the cocktail a little less sweet. So beer, absolutely. Use ginger beer. It's going to be much free. If you're using ginger ale, you're still going to have the sweetness of the ginger ale in the cocktail. Everybody got theirs done? I see people enjoying. Cheers.
Lots of cheersing. Let us know what you think.
Nice. See how much you can taste the Irish whiskey in there? That's going to sneak up on it.
We got nice, refreshing. Any specific questions about that drink?
Fancy highball.
See people sipping. Orange and whiskey is a great combination. I think so.
Yep. It's old fashioned is classic, and that's got orange in it, depending on who you ask. Really good with peach schnapps in it. So if you have peach schnapps, you can make it with peach schnapps.
And do you remember what food pairing you put with this one?
Absolutely. Next, a charred chicken with sweet potatoes and oranges. So and the the rich flavor of the burn. You've got a lot of that heavy flavor with the sweet potatoes. And so this is going to be a nice complement that's going to kind of cut right through that. Because when you're tending to do food pairings, if you have something that's really rich, you want to do something that's kind of acidic or a little tart that's going to cut through that richness. You're just going to keep building that richness up on your palate, and it's going to overload your mouth. So what you really want to do is kind of take a bite and then sip, and that cleans you get that richness back in again. Thinking about this, corned beef might go good with it because the corn together. So if you're looking for something Irish as well, I think this would go well with like the corned beef or maybe even the beef stew, because again, you've got that richness of the stew or the richness of the corned beef and the cloves that tend to be within it. And then you've got the bite of the ginger, you've got the bite of the orange, and that'll just refresh the palate a bit. Other question? I reach for the wrong drink.
Could you show us your orange liqueur?
This is Hiram Orange Curacao. Orange is a kind of a broad category of liquors. So Grand Marnier falls into it, Harlequin falls into it, Cointreau falls into it. Technically, Blue Curacao falls into it because Blue Curacao is this dyed blue. So when I use orange liqueur as kind of the generic, because you could use triple sec, you could use Grand Marnier, you can use orange or Cointreau, all of those different ones, and you're still getting the orange flavor in it. Because most of my cocktails, when I give the recipe for it, so it's not a specific liqueur that you have to buy exactly that bottle for. It's this tastes good with a more brandy-based Cointreau or a little drier Grand Marnier. But I am rocking really generic Hiram Walker. Maybe this was $10. And that's another thing about the cocktails that we're making is flexible enough that if you don't have Powers, which is a pretty good Irish whiskey, you're still going to have a good cocktail with it. If you don't have the Guinness, if you had Caramelicious, if you had what was the other one? Sam Adams Oatmeal Stout, you're still going to have a good cocktail.
That's that's awesome. Everyone else I see drinking up too, so that's good. All right. If we don't have any other if we don't have any other questions, we'll probably head on to the third drink. I hope y'all are not going anywhere, I guess.
All right, drink number 3.
Let's do it.
So we're going to do rum this time. Now, this is going to be an easy drink. 1 ounce of everything. And that's actually a pretty common formula for cocktails. The famous Negroni, everyone has tried, but the famous Negroni is 1. So equal parts is always a great recipe for a cocktail. So what we're going to start off with, everything is equal parts. So if you want to make a 4 ounces, if you're making it for 2 people and you want to go all in, downstairs, I really should have that one, but this was right next to it. Because this is a greener cocktail, we're also going to add 1 ounce of Midori melon liqueur. And if you want to know, Midori represents all of them. It does have a very kind of generic flavor to it. Good. Right now, we have our 1 ounce of rum, 1 ounce of Midori. All right, making sure everything is okay.
I know. I don't see anything in the chat. I'm just watching people pour too.
And it's just like watching all of you work is so. It's all good. All right. So we're going to do 1 more ounce orange liqueur. Now, if you are going to invest in a bottle of orange liqueur, I would invest in. It's a good idea because there are so many cocktails that use this as a sweetener.
Hey, Barb, are you raising your hand? Do you have a question? Okay, just making sure. Nope, we're good. Keep going.
All right. So, 1 ounce of Midori melon liqueur, 1 orange liqueur. I'm using orange curacao. Now we're going to do 1 ounce of lime juice. I am going to squeeze my 1 ounce of lemon juice. I am going to use my lemon juice. If you have pre-made lemon juice, if you have it out of the bottle, awesome. I need to squeeze mine. Now, when you're squeezing lemon juice, one thing I will say, 24 hours before you use it, it will oxidize a little, and it will be in that 24 hours, but lemon juice will last at least 24 hours. And average standard lemon, you'll get anywhere from, I'd say, a ½ ounce to 1 ounce of lemon or of lemon juice. Larger lemons are obviously going to give you more. Smaller lemons are going to give you less, but lemons are not stingy with their juice. Limes, on the other hand, do not give up the juice. See? Yeah, that 1 lemon gave me a. Also, for those of you who, if you want to fresh squeeze your lemon juice, you can also have, it's on top, you can also have a strainer that you use to strain out any of the pulp or any of the seeds. You probably will rarely get one if you're using one of these squeezers or a lemon reamer. But in case you want to go even tighter, you can always double strain it through a an extra metal strainer. So everybody has 1 ounce of melon liqueur, 1 ounce of orange curacao, and 1 ounce of lemon juice, right? Now we add our ice. Remember, you can roll back and forth with 2 different glasses. If you're going to use a Boston shaker or one of these shakers, you want to put this on top, make sure it, and then start shaking going. It looks ready to shake.
That's a nice shake dance, Chris.
We all have our own shake dances. And then I'm going to use my strainer this time. But again, if you don't have one of those, you can always just kind of open it back between the two glasses, the smaller glass and the larger glass. Now, for the final part, we are going to use a lemon zest. So you're going to take a lemon and you are going to just peel off a part of the zest. Zester will do, but personally, I found that these OXO Y zesters are the best for zesting. So here's my zest. I'm going to squeeze it over the top of the cocktail. Now, what this does for your cocktail is there are, if you take a look in it, there are little pores in your lemon zest. And in those little pores is a bit of oil. So what I'm doing is actually just squeezing a little bit of lemon oil over my cocktail. And then I am going to, well, and one thing I could do is just, since it's least, I'm going to around the edge. That'll give it an extra little scent of the lemon oil, and then add the cocktail. Is because oil is hydrophobic, there is now a cocktail. And this will most commonly when you're zesting, you're going to do lemons or oranges. Also do not like to give up their zest. Grapefruits will do. Everybody strained demonstration. Is everybody good? Up. So cheers, everybody. Mm-hmm.
And yes, Matt, great question. Brian is with Smart Guy in a Tie Cocktails, and I linked to his Facebook page in the email you guys received, and I will link it again when I send you the recipe so you guys can follow him. He goes live on his Facebook page. I think you bartend around town some too, a little bit, or you used
There's
to.
bartending to be had, yes.
Yes. So you can catch him on his Facebook page as well.
Very nice.
Yeah. If you're enjoying videos, enjoying this kind of thing, there are 100 videos right now. Are about 100 cocktails that I made doing this type of thing. Question.
Brian, did we miss cinnamon on the first drink? I
Oh,
think we
I'm
had
sorry.
cinnamon on the
I did
list.
forget the cinnamon. My fault. Sorry, everybody. I keep forgetting that's the garnish. I know I'm fired. But yes, if you want to put a cinnamon, a dash of cinnamon on top of it. The one thing I will say about garnishes, though, is that they're not always required. It just depends on what you're looking to make the cocktail, to finish off the cocktail. But yes, I did the cinnamon powder on top of the first cocktail. I apologize. Thank you for reminding me. That will be in the recipe, though.
And if you don't like melon, could you use apple? It looks like our honeydew. I'm not sure if that's a separate one, but is there anything you
If
could
you
substitute against the melon liqueur?
if you don't like the melon liqueur, I think apple would be good. Are you trying to keep it green?
She said
No. Peach would work. Think of anything else that might work.
Can you use falernum?
Falernum would be good because that makes it a little more tropical. And falernum is a combination. It's a liqueur that comes out of the Caribbean. I only know of two different ones bottled, one out of Pittsburgh and one out of the Caribbean. It's cinnamon, it's allspice, I believe it's cardamom, and it's a very very common cocktail ingredient in tiki cocktails. Any other questions? A ruby slipper come through.
We were just trying to be right state festive, but
What was that last drink called? What was that last drink called? Thank you. And that was garnished with the honeydew, or could be?
And I just actually reread my note. If you have honeydew melon, you take a honeydew melons, and you can either. I don't have honeydew. I have cantaloupe. So if you're going to do like balls of cantaloupe, balls of honeydew melon, do 3, because if you don't do 3, it's bad luck, and that is an Italian tradition that goes back a long way. So that would be one way to do it as well. Had honey. I did not find honeydew. I had cantaloupe, so I used the cantaloupe. If you just have a slice of honeydew melon, you could put it on the edge, and that would also be a good way to.
That sounds great.
Because
Yeah.
I was doing research. I actually did something like 5 years ago called 100 Days of Cocktails. One of the cocktails I found was the Ball de Canon, which apparently is Cannonball, and it is a cocktail that creates cantaloupe puree and tequila, and it was probably one of the favorite ones we made in the 100 Days. So melon liqueur and tequila is a great combination to try.
Well, Brian, since I've learned from you about,
pairings,
I always make sure I put 3 cherries in my Manhattans now, since I've heard you talk about it being bad luck, if you have 1 or 2.
yes. Well, 1 is fine. 2 is
1's okay. Yeah,
3 is
odd numbers. Yes, right.
odd numbers. Is anybody a Sambuca fan? Anybody drink Sambuca?
Yes.
Okay, I heard a yes. One of the traditional ways of serving Sambuca, which is a very
Here it is.
anise forward liqueur. Someone's busting out their Sambuca. Look at him. He's just got it right there.
Here's falernum.
What they will do is they will put 3 coffee beans on top of the Sambuca and drink it that way. Again, odd numbers are good. They're lucky. Even numbers are bad.
So you mentioned tequila with Midori. You can make a spicy margarita and do a float of Midori on top, and it gives it a really good flavor.
What do you use for the spicy?
Well, I use jalapenos, and if I get really adventurous, I use habaneros.
Wow.
and muddle them in. A little bit of cilantro, the tequila, a little tequila, 3/4 tequila, 1/4 mezcal.
Wow, you fancy. That sounds delightful. I'm down with everything except the cilantro because I have that fantastic gene that makes cilantro taste like.
Oh my goodness.
So they want to know too, could you use the Bacardi Limon for the emerald slipper too?
Certainly. Because there's already lemon in it and there's an affinity to it, I'd recommend using the Bacardi Limon in it as well. It's going to taste a little more lemony, and you may want to back off on the lemon juice just a hair. Maybe you put in a half ounce instead of a full ounce, but it's going to be delightful. And again, the food for this one is just, I went with dessert, a lemon blueberry cake. Because again, you've got the lemon, you've got the tartness, you've got a little bit of sweetness, and lemon and blueberry combination together.
And a random question, does alcohol like Sambuca ever go bad?
Did you keep your Sambuca in the fridge? Whoever has the Sambuca, I can't see. No. Okay.
I keep it in the freezer.
Well, yes, of course. Alcohol after about 8 to 10 months starts losing its initial zing after bottling, but then it moves at a glacial pace. So you can have alcohol that's 10 years old and it might be slightly off, but it's not going to be gross. So alcohol lasts a really long time. But if you're trying to keep it as long as possible, I would say keep it out of direct sunlight and keep it in a relatively climate controlled area. So don't put it in a place that's going to get really hot and then really cold. Like my alcohol is kept in our cellar because even if it gets super hot in the cellar, it's like in the 60s or 70s.
Cool.
So it's pastiche is the same thing as Zambuca, right? And
I believe so, yes. Still has that black licorice flavor to it that everybody loves.
Pastiche and then Arak.
A rock, oh, definitely a rock. A rock has different flavors to it, though. It depends on what it's made out of. I'm thinking of Ouzo. Also has a similar flavor.
Ouzo. That's right.
Similar flavor. And one of the things about Ouzo is if Ouzo and absinthe both have that similar anise. Cloud because the oils that are suspending the alcohol emerge. And so it does what it's called lushing. With Ouzo, I think it's called a lion's milk. If you put a couple drops of water in Ouzo and it turns that milky white color.
Absinthe.
What about it?
Is this the one that you use?
I can't. All right, I have to come close. What's the name of it? Lucid? No.
Lucid.
Lucid is a good one. I have Pernod, I believe. I just bought a new bottle and I can't remember it off the top of my head. But I made sure I invested in a nice French synth. Because absinthe, despite popular opinion, you will get alcohol poisoning before you hallucinate.
All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, people I think are starting to take off. Oh, we got one more. Curious if Brian has ever had, I don't know how to say it, so I apologize. RAKI, and if there's any cocktails he could make with it.
Rocky? Yeni Rocky. Yeni Rocky is what's made with the lines. Uzo is Hungarian. Is that behind me? No, I have Unicum. I would say any there's not a lot of cocktails that are made with it. It's kind of similar to absinthe, where if you're going to use it for something, it's typically a wash. Where you might, and what I mean by a wash, pour it into the cocktail glass. So if I was going to wash it, what I would do is I would swirl it so I can get a dump it, and then so a little bit of the left on the glass, but it's not going to permeate the cocktail. So most of those really strong flavored liqueurs like Yeni Raki and absinthe, those are typically washes for other cocktails. Like I would try it maybe with a Sazerac. That might be a good one, or Death in the Afternoon is another good one.
Brian, did you say to put 3 coffee beans on the Sambuca?
Yes, that's tradition, because you want to stay lucky. And ones, threes, fives, those are odd numbers. Those are lucky. Twos, fours.
All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I see people hopping off. They got to get to their next one, and people saying thank you, so much fun. They've enjoyed doing this during quarantine, and that's really was our goal. We really wanted to try to put some stuff out there. So I got some good ideas. You guys can always email me too if you think of other ideas or liquors that you want to see if Brian can make something. And again, I will make sure to send you his links too, so you can follow him on Facebook. And I'll make sure some of you are like, can we please have it by the recipes by the weekend? I will do my best to try to get them to you by tomorrow, especially if you've got some open bottles and things that you've just opened so you can enjoy cocktails this weekend. And again, thank you all. I see a lot of people that have attended all of them or a lot of them. And if you are new, welcome. Thanks for joining. And again, I did record this. So if you give us about a week, we'll get it up on our website too, along with some of our other virtual events. And shameless plug too, we do have some other virtual events coming up, so you can check out anything we have going on at wrightstatealumni.com/events. And with that, I hope you guys have a good rest of your night. Thank you again, Brian. You're awesome as always. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Loved it.